Let me tell you what's going on in the business world. We're talking about 0 hours contracts. We've got a guest here who's going to be chatting about it, a recruitment expert. The story this morning is that 0 hours contracts, obviously, they allow employers to take on new staff without having to commit to a set amount of work each month. Now, on the plus side for staff, they get the flexibility of being able to turn down hours that they don't want to do. But on the downside, they might not get offered enough hours to support the income that they need, and they can also be called in at short notice. Now, we'll find out today how many people are actually on these 0 hours contracts, how many there are of them. Between January and August, the number of contracts went up by 400,000 to 1.8 million. Now, it's important to remember some people are on more than one contract, so that's not the number of people, it's the number of contracts in total. And we'll get the latest update on that today. But with me now is Jon Ingham, who is a recruitment expert. Good morning to you, Jon. Yeah. Just explain to us how they work.
Yeah, well, as you say, they are contracts between an organisation and employee or worker for the performance of work, but without any contracted minimum hours to be worked. And therefore, the amount that someone gets paid depends on the amount of work that they do. That depends on the amount of work that they're actually offered. And therefore, for businesses, they're seen as a good way to promote flexibility. But employees and unemployed people do often associate them with an increase in insecurity, I guess.
When I interviewed the boss of McDonald's last week in the UK, he said that he'd surveyed his staff about 0 hours contracts because they are heavily used there. And he said the staff there were happy because they liked the flexibility of them. What do you make of that?
I can understand where that's coming from. The survey that we've been conducting suggests that it does give some support for that sort of view, that 40% of unemployed people that we surveyed suggest that they would be prepared to take a 0 hours contract, and 25% of those suggest that they would see that as a positive thing, that they would value the flexibility that provides them, or because it's for work experience or it's a stopgap job, that they have no concerns about the lack of sort of permanent ongoing hours. But a lot of the survey does also suggest that most people who take 0 hour contracts do so because they feel they don't have any choice about doing so.
And that's where a lot of the criticisms come from about them, hasn't it? And what can people do anything if they're on 0 hours contracts to get more guaranteed hours or anything? Is there a certain time where you might be on one for so long and then the company has to give you a set amount, or is it literally just a case if you're on them in tough luck?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, certainly I think it would always be worth talking to an employer about the deal that they're being offered and what might be possible, whether there are different groups of employees who perhaps have a different type of contract. But no, at the moment, there's no legal opportunity to change that contract. But that's certainly something that's being discussed, whether perhaps, for example, after 12 months of employment, that there should be a right to switch to a more standard employment deal. But we'd also encourage people, perhaps when they're considering a new job, to talk to their employers about the nature of the employment contract. And certainly, a lot of the research and other data supports that it's not really the contract itself that is the issue. It's perhaps the employment philosophy behind that contract that's the issue. So a progressive employer like McDonald's, for example, data employee feedback on Glassdoor suggests that employees do actually believe that that they're not concerned about the form of contract, whereas some other organisations, we see a very different form of employee feedback.
OK, Jon, thank you very much for your time this morning. That's it for me for now.
Steph, thank you very much. See you a little bit later. Thank you.